Good afternoon. Welcome to Dancing Through the Decades and the movie review with Cheryl and Richard. Today we've got a special guest in for the first half an hour, and we have the Honourable Josh Wilson, member of Fremantle for Labor government. Is that right?
Absolutely. That's perfect.
Awesome. So how long have you been a member of Parliament?
I was first elected in July 2016, so it's sort of going on 6.5 years. This is my third term.
Awesome. So we've got you in here today because we are IPL radio station and we're all about mental health and awareness, and also about inclusivity because we've got a lot of diverse radio presenters, and we're a non-profit organisation, and we like, especially, and we're the advocate for arts as well. So we're looking for, because we're a non-profit organisation, it's just like, we're looking for help, you know, sure. And it's good to have people like yourself in to know what can we do as a group to get there. Yeah,
well, it's a great initiative. Community radio is such an important part of cultural and community life Australia-wide. I think it's 5 million listeners each week across Australia. So 1 in 5 Australians listen to community radio one way or another. And the fact that it is something, a sort of vehicle for tapping into the diversity within the community and a vehicle for social inclusion is one of the things that makes it so special. And in addition to that, you look at the musical broadcast aspect of it, community radio ends up giving a lot more coverage to Australian music than equivalent commercial stations. And I think 66%, so that's nearly 2/3 of community radio has a regional rural presence, which is important too. So you should be supported, and the work that you do, I think, is really important.
Awesome. Yeah.
What I really like about IPL as well, I founded a charity called Friends of the Arts Inclusive Resource Fair, and it's important to me that everywhere I show the face of fair, and we have our own show on IPL The Yarn on Sundays, that it be inclusive and accessible. And we're really fortunate that this building was previously the Centrelink building, so it is an accessible building. It means that anybody can come in and have a go. We're not excluding anybody. You can come in. I have my service dog. There's room for her. There's room for people with wheelchairs. There's room for people with mental health disabilities. There's room for people of culturally, linguistically diverse backgrounds, of our First Nations people. There's room for everyone here at IPL, and that's what I really admire about the station. What's your passion for where do you, if you were able to specify where your passion lies? Mine is obviously the arts, music, and that ties into radio, into community radio. What do you adore? What gets you going?
Well, culture, the arts and creative industries are pretty important to me too, and they're important to the community I represent in Fremantle, which has a pretty strong record of
beautiful city.
Yeah, and music making, storytelling, dance, drama, screen productions. I mean, all of those things are present in Fremantle, and I think it is a part of our life as a nation that isn't fully realised yet. Arts, culture, and creative producers are often sometimes regarded as people engaging in
hobby,
an optional extra or a hobby, rather than it being seen as a sort of a central part of our lives. And I would make the argument that it's almost society and community and creativity at its best. And I think we're still more inclined to value certain kinds of work. Even if you look at the sporting world, I think we're quicker to celebrate sporting achievement than we are to celebrate achievement and participation in culture and the arts. So that's important to me. The environment has always been something that's pretty special, in the marine environment, growing up in Fremantle and being someone who loves the sea. And the ocean for me is part of my own mental health and emotional well-being. Like, I find that if I can get into the sea, even in winter when it's not quite so attractive, if I can just get into the sea, it brings me peace It helps me stop going round and round and round inside my head sometimes. Yeah.
Like washes away what you're going through, and it's like you go out there and you're peaceful. I'm gonna do aqua aerobics. That's not peaceful, but it's the water. The movement in the water helps, especially clear your mind and just floating. I mean, I'm a water baby. I'm a Piscean, so, and I grew up in Rockingham, so I know Freo because we used to go back and forth all the time. So, the water is definitely, especially salt water. Salt water is good for the body, regardless. It heals sores. It's just good. So if you're, having one of those days where you just need to chill or do something, go down, even if you just sit down the beach and just watch what's going on. I think it's mental. It's keeping your mental health in check. And I find for me, my passion is theatre and arts because I do a lot of drama. I do either on stage or directing myself. Done that for like 20 years now. So I find that music, and because I did dance for 20 years as well, that I did a bit more. That music is my mental health check. So yeah. So this is why I come to IPL really, because one of my friends said, "Oh, do you want to co-host?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. My voice is, I don't really like my voice on the radio." And then co-hosted, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't mind this, and coming here and just playing my music, and it's just, I love it. I love it." And so I think you're trying to support it and just keep it going. It's great because it gives people a voice, and that's what we're all about here.
Yeah. My son actually told me I talk too much, and I've recently quit smoking on the realization that I made the comment, must talk less, smoke more. And my support worker said, "I don't know how I can support you in that." And I made the realization that I smoke more so that I will talk less. And that's terrible, isn't it? Sad.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why it's great.
And it will ultimately stop me from talking. So my son said, "Why don't you, when he saw this Act Belong Commit page come up, would you like to have a yarn on the radio show? Have your own show?" I thought that sounded like fun. And he's always telling me to shut up, that he finds it boring, me constantly talking about the arts. But I'm sure there's people out there who want to listen. And I also enjoy promoting our local musicians. We have a really great music scene in Fremantle and surrounds and Western Australia, but particularly in Fremantle is a bit of a mecca. Do you get out much to the...
I try to, and I've got some encouragement now, but because of my kids, they're 18, 20 and 22, and my daughters in particular like music, so that they often give me encouragement. We'll go out and try and see someone play at Mojo's or the Fremantle Arts Centre or something like that. I still really enjoy it. There's nothing, I like music in all forms, but there's nothing quite like live music. Yeah. And there's also nothing quite like going along and seeing a band that you've never, in my case, sometimes heard of. And there are some opportunities for bands that are really new and emerging. Mm-hmm. And when you see people putting their heart and soul into a musical performance, and you find yourself energized by that, or moved, or touched, or it's a reminder of one of the best things in life. And and I do next Friday, I think, is Australian music T-shirt day, or Australian band T-shirt day, and I get involved in that. You should certainly think about it. So I will make sure that next week I'm going to be wearing an Abbey May T-shirt. I'm quite a fan of Abbey May, so next week I'll be wearing an Abbey May T-shirt, and part of that is also drawing attention to Support Act, of course, which is an initiative that provides mental and social and emotional support for people
in the music industry.
Yeah,
it doesn't just support the musicians, it supports everybody in the music industry.
That's right.
The people that do the rigging, the bouncers, the events coordinators, the ticket sellers, everybody that's involved.
My brother is a musician and has had his own bands and played in various bands, and I enjoy going and seeing him play. On one or two occasions a long time ago, if he hears this, he'll dispute it with me when we next get together. But on one or two occasions, I've been a little bit of a roadie for him.
Mhm.
So that's about that's the biggest claim I can make as far as the music industry.
Claim.
I think once or twice I've probably sat on the door and collected ticket money for him too, a long time ago.
I've got a fair few friends who have their own bands, or they go to gigs, or they get one of my friends. She's a singer, but if one of their lead singers is away, they're like, "Can you come?" And like, yeah. So she did the Time Doctors.
Oh,
She
yeah.
was sang with them last week, and so I've got friends who do the Midnight Rose duo, which they sing gigs and weddings and stuff like that, and they're actually opening up the Kodojo Art Centre if I've said it right. Yeah. And I know that art centre because I have a friend, Timothy Winmar, who when we first sort of built and they did an art exhibition, I was invited to that to help out with the catering and stuff, and because I'm great friends with Tim from karaoke and all that, so it's like, oh, I love this place, and it's a good little area actually.
Yeah, it's a perfect meeting place too of music and culture and the ocean, right? I mean, to be down there, I've been down there, and
it's right on the
in
ocean
the summer
too.
or in the winter,
Yeah.
and you get which you were saying about that, also that rhythmic nature of the ocean.
The zeitgeist, the moment. The feeling of like as if you're being there, the live feeling, just the rhythm, sounds, that live music.
Absolutely.
All around us.
Spot on. Yeah.
So, tell me about your portfolios. What are you responsible for in this Albanese government?
Well, in opposition, I was the shadow minister for the environment, so I had some responsibility for our policy in areas like ocean waste and recycling. Now in government, while I'm not a member of the executive, I am the chair of the Treaties Committee, which is a committee that looks at all of the international agreements that Australia enters into, and I'm also I'm on the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee and the Migration Committee. So I've got a bunch of things that I'm part of. I also have I am the co-convener of the Parliamentary Friendship Group for Australian live music. So that's something that's new. I didn't have that role in the last Parliament.
And what does that entail?
Well, that is a way of making the Parliament and parliamentarians more aware of the importance of Australian live music culturally and economically. I mean, unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic, that was one sector that was really hit hard. Now, not so much here in Western Australia because
we didn't have
we were able to stay relatively COVID-free. But I think in New South Wales and Victoria it was devastating. And I was told when I met with some of the Australian live music peak body representatives that in some areas that has only come back to 50% of what it was pre-pandemic. So that's, I guess, one of the things you can do if you're fortunate enough to work as a parliamentarian or a representative is awareness raising. And so I guess what we'd be saying, and I will keep saying, is encourage people over the summer, if they can, to support live music and culture more broadly. But you know, people are thinking about how they want to spend their time. If you can go along to a gig and buy a ticket.
I'm
if you
going
can
to
buy
see
some,
the Witchy Gypsies tonight, but I didn't have to buy a ticket.
Well, no, but I mean, look, and sometimes it's buying merchandise directly from bands, buying their T-shirt, or I mean, I still, my kids live in the digital music world, but I confess to, I've still got a turntable as well as a CD player, so
I've still got some records myself.
What music do your kids love to listen to?
Well, quite a wide range. One of my daughters is a big fan of Cub Sport. My middle daughter likes Phoebe Bridgers a lot. Everyone is pretty keen on Taylor Swift. I know Chris, who's here with me today, is very keen on Taylor Swift.
Okay, that's
Taylor. I'm an 80s fan.
That's where I'm from.
Sort of 90s, I guess. Like 90s and now.
I like local now. Now
I mean, I admire local and stuff like that. But 80s is my jam. 80s, a bit of everything, because I do like the late 70s because I was born in 76. But but that's why I thought dancing through the decades, because music you can.
Yeah, we've got lots of
love.
this part of the world. obviously just from Freo alone.
Yeah.
Tame Impala. I think the new Stella Donnelly album is pretty good. That was one of the songs I put through. Eskimo Joe when I was growing up. So there's lots of Fremantle music. There's lots of Western Australian music. Lots of great Australian music as well.
Oh, yes.
So,
I remember Voyager came from Fremantle.
right.
A band called Voyager, and they're a little bit like Nightwish, because when Nightwish came to Fremantle, that was many years ago, and I was like, oh, I love it. I'm not very big on heavy metal, but I call them power metal because they've got the orchestra behind them, so they've got a bit of a range of music in there. And then Voyager was actually a local band, and I'm like, and it was funny because one of the band members was it. Then I was in a play called Mall of the Dead, which is all about zombies. He was actually in that. And I said, meh. And he started playing guitar and he was talking about it. And I said, you're from Voyager because I've got your CD yet. And so because I was at the Voyager at the Nightwish concert, brought Nightwish's T-shirt, but then I made sure I bought Voyager because I heard that they were for Freo. So I was like,
You told me Nightwish was they were like metal opera.
Yeah. I call them power metal.
Opera.
That's what I call power metal because it's not
like Metallica S&M when Metallica played with the symphony orchestra.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you think, there's going to be an orchestra on stage, and you're like, where is it? But they've got it. It's all synthesized and added in, and it's just amazing.
Yeah. Josh, you were talking to me when you came in about your passion for community radio, that your dad had his own ham set. Is that right?
My dad was involved in radio when he was at university. This would have been in the 70s, and initially with 6UVS FM when it got its FM license. And I mean, it's amazing how radio has evolved, and also how, I mean, at that stage, my father and some of his friends who were into blues and jazz and emerging kinds of world music and these sorts of things actually had to go and make an argument with the radio management at that stage to carve out a little bit of airtime for what was just called NCM. And NCM was essentially non-classical music. So, this would have been in the early 70s, which when I was born. But at that stage, to think that you would have a few hours that might have been dedicated to blues or rock or jazz or whatever it was considered a little bit out there. So that, in my childhood, my dad had collected music, and one of the things that he would commonly do, because he would prepare for his radio program on Sunday, he would be listening. He would have a notebook, as you've got there, and he would play records, and he would note tracks down, and then one record would make him think of another record, and he'd make lists, and then he'd stack them up in the order that he wanted to play them. And so that watching him, being around him as he listened to music and tried to put together what he wanted to put to air on the Sunday, and was just something that I was around, and obviously that had an influence on my brother, who's a musician and a songwriter, but it influenced me too. Like, it gave me the gift of the love of music.
Oh yes. May I ask, what show did he host, your dad?
Well, he was part of the crew. The show continues today, Sunday morning coming down.
Oh, okay.
Because 6UVS FM became RTR FM. And my dad was involved. In fact, he was the inaugural chairperson of RTR FM for a while. So,
so you've got community broadcasting flowing through your veins.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
I got a friend who's doing a show on there now.
Yeah. I mean, and it's such the difference, as you would all know, and I think most people would understand, is that people listen to commercial radio. Good luck. But there's not the variation. I mean, you're sort of essentially listening to a fairly similar mix of songs
all day, every
through
day.
the day.
Yeah.
Whereas through community radio, you get these really neat, distinctive, deeper explorations or investigations into whether it could be talkback, or it could be a conversation like we're having, or it could be a special genre of music, a niche genre of music. and it's so much richer for covering greater breadth, but covering that, but going deep into any or all of those areas. And
Instead of just playing the top number one hit.
Well, that's
just
right.
Come
Yeah,
out.
that's right.
Yeah, finding little gems going, oh, I never knew this one existed, and you play it and it's funny.
Yeah. Like on the yarn. Oh, sorry, Clodagh. On the yarn, we focus on all Australian music as local as possible. So we play almost exclusively Western Australian music on our show, and you just don't get that on your regular commercial FM stations.
No, and that's something we need to keep looking at in the way that people do listen to music. There's been a lot of talk in the last 5 years about streaming video. When I was a kid, if you wanted to watch screen drama, you could either watch free-to-air television or you could go to the movies.
Or get a video
Well,
out.
ultimately, yeah. Well, when I was, that's right, I was 12 or 13,
Oh,
you're going to be
Blockbuster
VHS
video.
or you're going to be beta.
Video easy.
Yeah, but now, streaming video, one way or another, is the dominant form, and there is an issue about how the big multinational players, as Netflix and those kind of companies, the extent to which they are asked, I think quite reasonably, to ensure that they're supporting local product and local cultural production. Now, with streaming music, it's not different, but the conversation hasn't been had to a sufficient degree yet around things like Spotify and the way that they actually operate. Because some of the, as I understand it, some of the sort of the list making and the promotion that occurs through Spotify doesn't do Australian songwriters and musical producers any great favours. And that's just something we need to keep a focus on, because we need to have sufficient support in Australia, in our community, the way that it actually works, that Australian manufacturers of music, who are workers like any other worker, are able to do their thing, and that we are able, as a nation, in all our various communities, we are able to benefit from that distinctive Australian sound and storytelling and response to landscape and Indigenous languages, all of the things that belong to us as part of our cultural heritage.
That's why, like the movie 3 Summers that came out. I was actually an extra on that show when it was filmed down at Fairbridge down Mandurah Way, and my shots didn't get through, but it's okay. It was a big day, and it was great to just be involved with Ben Elton and all the people that were involved. And one of my friends was the actual blonde, one of the young girls that had her phases of upset person, and every year there'd be some sort of different change. And I did shows with her, so I knew people, so it was great.
Cool.
And every time I watched it, I'm like, oh, that's that person, and that did that with, showing, the different cultures and the different people in Australia and what we can do with film. Like, it wasn't a bore, some people, Aussie, it's not a big American, woohoo, but we're getting better at shooting from, our locations
and using celebrating ourselves as Australians.
Yeah.
We're getting better at not having such a cultural cringe about the Australian culture. And I think that's got a lot to do with reconciliation and being more proud of ourselves as a colony. And that we've making a lot of steps. I mean, we've still got going backwards in some ways with things like Cassius Turvey, whose funeral is coming up shortly. But I was talking to Fluent on Sunday, MC Fluent, who played at Cassius Turvey's barbecue memorial service a weekend ago now, and he was saying that he's noticed a cultural shift towards First Nations and non-First Nations Australians being more of one in his lifetime, and I hope that continues.
Yeah, we did that. The ode to the Australian at the beginning, the home. Yeah, all our theatre shows. There we go. Acknowledgements of nation. I knew there was a word for it. It's Friday afternoon.
Acknowledgement of country.
Knowledge. Yeah, of country. Every show that I've been on to now, all the theatres have now started adding that into it, which is great because it's recognising them. They were here first,
Yeah,
they
and
were here,
look,
and it's
our lives are richer for that. I mean,
Yes.
we sort of turned away as the Australian nation from settlement, turned away from suppressed, oppressed Aboriginal people, Indigenous and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people all over this country perpetrated some terrible things, and that healing's got a significant way to go. But it's certainly all the things you say are true about what's occurred in my lifetime. When I was in primary school, I would never have heard Noongar language. My children actually at their primary school in Spearwood learn Noongar language. Now we have people writing songs and having hits with songs that are in language, and I think all of those things need to be recognised, while at the same time we don't kid ourselves that we're there yet.
Yes.
Because there are lots of areas, exactly what you're talking about with Cassius Turvey. The Indigenous incarceration rates are a matter of national shame. They are a matter of national shame. We need constitutional recognition of Indigenous people. We need to deliver on the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and the Albanese Labor government is committed to doing that. There are lots of areas that demand our urgent attention and wholehearted attention as a community, and we know how much we all have to benefit from that because we've seen it to some degree. So I think that's it's one of the things that I really look forward to in this term of Parliament is the community nationwide answering the call and taking up the opportunity and responding to what is really a beautiful invitation from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people when it comes to the Uluru Statement from the Heart. What a fantastic sort of threshold for us all as a nation to be able to cross.
Yeah. Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. I think we might end on that note.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Honourable Josh Wilson, for coming in and enlightening us today on the things that are going on. And we just reiterate that mental health and awareness is what we're all about here at IPL, and this is what keeps me going and my mental health in check, and dance and theatre and stuff like that. So thank you so much for coming in, and thank you, letting Sandy.
Us interrupt your show.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It wasn't a bad interruption. It was actually a good interruption, having a bit of an interview on anyway. Yeah. Need to get some more people with their dance schools. If you've got a dance school, please come through. We'd like to give you some advertisement. And I've got a few friends, but I'm going to get on top of that. And I have to get my Facebook page up and running for this from my show. Haven't done that yet, but I'll get there. So thank you so much for coming in.
It's been a pleasure to come on, and thanks for what you do, because there's no doubt that the effort that you put in, there are people out there listening and taking comfort and joy from what you do. You'll be making that difference into people's lives, sometimes at a point when they really, really need that. So good on you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.